free customer service. Yeah, change. Yeah. If you want to top up your account, press 1. Oh, okay, press 1. Oh, we've sent you a thing on your mobile number. How long it's going to take? And I think, why do you need two-step authentication to pay a toll? Oh, I know, I can get rid of that. I can transfer all sorts of tens of thousands of dollars just through. Sorry, Julie.
No, that's okay. It's ridiculous. I quite agree.
So that's funded by one of the...
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine
There's nice fresh food coming out. She's just putting it out of the... No, I'm not. I was just walking in and John was half done it, so I went, I'll just come back with it. I was going to put it down somewhere because it's getting heavy. Just didn't know where.
Yeah, so the premise, what he's trying to do is just build 20 sessions. And he's wanting to continue doing religious across the spectrum. So kind of using unity. So some of those people will be glad to do have breakfast. Some people will be like myself in the community. Journey from someone else. So that's just framing.
I finished the last bit last night.
But also,
And I was watching on time hearing people saying, oh, that's from the most beautiful morning saying, come on everybody, stop everything. I like to sit down.
So that's the framing. Yeah. So if the gently addressing about beauty is the next thing about this beauty.
Don't let the facts give away the goods.
When you bring out cheeky problem.
Does it make sense?
So I have been taking it to various places. What a silly question. Gorgeous.
Is she, what's she doing now?
She's almost called. I mean, she's just started saying, Mama. So we get to the That's fine. I'll bring one next time. Next time you're on, big one. Only one
But usually it's not. Since I've been
Some people got to have these holidays in law. Savoury? Please, because I'm just looking She walked past and goes, "Oh, God, not quite up to Benny's." But you know what I said to Trevor? Hey, you excelled yourself. I said to Trevor, from now on, I'm going to have more activity, but I'm down. I've been trying to get some of that praise, some of the standards. But you wouldn't, we'd still know it was Trevor.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. If we're in Parliament House, they'd say we'd be ringing the bells.
Shut up.
Good morning, everybody. How are you all this morning? It's a very good morning for a hot coffee. Who's cold? You cold, Lola? Lovely to see you along here today. And of course, lovely to see Grandpa Goodwin back from KL. Lovely to see you. And of course, it's a most auspicious day today. It's John Coa's birthday, so I won't lead the singing just now. That would put people online off badly. But at the end of the service, make sure everyone gives him a hug and a kiss for his birthday. So let's begin our time together today by just an acknowledgement of country. And I would like to acknowledge that today in this place we're meeting on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders. We acknowledge the care of the land, the water and the air that occurred under their stewardship. We acknowledge that, and we acknowledge that there was dislocation, pain and suffering that occurred to them through and since colonisation. We acknowledge our responsibility to act justly towards Australia's Indigenous people and to treat them with equality, respect and dignity, and to ensure that this space is a safe place for Indigenous people, as it must be a safe place for all people, regardless of ethnicity, of gender, age, sexual preference, social status or religious conviction. Now today we're in our series where we're looking at some people who have provided inspiration to different members of our community. And today we're going to be spending some time thinking about Joan Chittister. There was some chance I was going to say that name wrong, so I've been practising for the sake of ensuring no one's embarrassed. So Julie's going to come and talk to us about Joan. And Joan's an American lady. I won't talk too much about her because Julie's going to do that and I don't want to steal her thunder, but she's a person who has had a very strong interest in the rights of women and the voice of women in the community, but also the voice of those who are poor or dispossessed. And so today what I want us to do is I just want us to centre ourselves at the start of our worship with a very brief meditation. And we're going to just use a meditation that we use sometimes when we do Connect, which is called a loving kindness meditation, where we hold someone else in our thoughts just for a moment and we think powerfully and hospitably towards that other human being. So if you just centre yourself, just be quiet, just focus on your breath. And then as you come into this place today, just allow yourself to be in a quiet and gentle space. And then just let someone come to mind, probably someone who is in your thoughts anyway. Just bring that person to mind. And just as you're holding that person in your thoughts, just for a moment, think of this person and just, in your own gentle space, embrace them with the thought of, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you know love. And may you know peace. May your life be rich and full of meaning. Just again, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you know love and peace. May your life be rich, full, and meaningful. And when you're ready, then just come back to the room here together with us. Now, Dave, I'm going to ask you if you'll come up and light the Christ candle. And then, Jules, over to you to start to introduce us to Joan and your journey with her.
Thanks, Danny and Dave.
So as Danny said, I'm going to talk a little bit about Joan Chittister this morning, and it's going to be divided into 3 segments. So the first segment, I'm just going to share a little bit about who she is, her life, and things that she's done. The second segment, I've just got some quotes of hers, which I thought we could just maybe spend a little bit of time thinking about, and what people might, how you might respond to some of those quotes. And then the third part is going to be a bit about a book that I've read of hers and how that has been significant in my life. So to start off with a bit about Joan, so as Danny said, she's a Catholic. She's actually a Catholic Benedictine nun. She's also a theologian, a feminist, an author, and a public speaker. So she was born in 1936 in Pennsylvania in America, and so she's 88 years old. She's still a vibrant and active advocate for all sorts of things. So she's been quite an amazing woman. She's been hailed by many as one of the most influential religious and social leaders of our time. And for over 50 years, she's passionately advocated, as Danny highlighted, on behalf of women's issues, peace, human rights, and monastic and church renewal in the Catholic Church. She's an international speaker, the author of over 60 books and hundreds of articles, podcasts, all sorts of things. She's an incredible person. From a really young age, Joan knew that she wanted to become a nun, and she entered the convent in her teens, which when you think about teenagers today and our children, and you think, how on earth could someone make such a momentous life decision at that age? But she did. And as a Benedictine nun, she follows the rule of St. Benedict. And a rule sounds like it's something very strict, but it's more, as she says, it's more a guide for life. So the main rules are work and prayer for the Benedictines, but other ones that are really significant are hospitality, community, accepting all people as they are, and the need for mercy in our world. Being a nun didn't stop her from studying, writing, and speaking out on the issues that she's passionate about. She's a highly intelligent woman. She was the first, I don't know if there's been others since, but she was the first Benedictine woman to get a PhD. The role of women in the Catholic Church is one of the issues that she's spoken out about. So you can imagine that she's probably not very popular. Well, she isn't very popular in many Catholic circles. She defied a Vatican order at one point on the discussion of women in the priesthood by continuing to speak and write about it. I'm not sure if that ban is still in place, but it certainly was when she first started speaking out about women in the priesthood. Her view is that it's very clear to her that feminism is not about femaleness, but that the feminist philosophers have been talking to us about the fullness of all humanity, about the world being a better place if we were using all the gifts of the human race instead of just half of them. A bit about her personal life. Her father died when she was a toddler, and her mother was a Catholic, and she remarried a man named Harold Dutch Chittister, who was a Presbyterian. And they decided to raise Joan a Catholic. But her future theology was deeply affected and shaped by her parents' mixed marriage, which back in the late 1930s and early 40s was actually quite scandalous, or viewed as quite scandalous. Joan tells the story of when she was about 7 or 8 and she was at school. The teacher taught them this day that Protestants don't go to heaven. And when she got home and her mother asked her what she learned at school that day, she told her what she'd heard and that she thought it was wrong. And her mother asked her why the sister would have said that if it was wrong. And she replied, "Because sister doesn't know my daddy." But that early idea of growing up in a Protestant and Catholic household really shaped her later views. It's really interesting that when she was 75, she felt that it was time to share her vulnerability around the fact that her stepfather was actually an alcoholic and a violent man. But despite the trauma that he inflicted on her and her mother, she was grateful to him and she remained attached to him. So much so that she decided when she was an adult that she was going to keep his surname. Dutch, her stepfather, was opposed to her entering the convent, but in later years he came to love the Benedictines. And at one point after the Vatican II renewal, there was a lot of upheaval in the Catholic Church after that. And Joan was considering leaving the Benedictine community. But it was her stepfather who talked to her about the bonds of love and loyalty and convinced her to remain in the convent. Joan is a strong advocate for interfaith dialogue and for religions to work together. So she's the co-chair of the Women's Global Peace Initiative, and she's co-chair with a Hindu nun, a Buddhist nun, an Orthodox Jew, an Islamic scholar, and a Protestant clergywoman. What an amazing group. It's called the Women's Global Peace Initiative. And she says that the six of them are calling people together, women together, in areas of conflict around this world to be a living sign that no religion, because they believe that the heart of none of the great religions support, endorse, or set out to produce war or killing or death for anyone. And I loved this quote. She says that she believes her work is a ministry of irritation within the church. So she's quite a remarkable woman, and that's just a little bit about her life and work. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you, Jules. So we'll look forward to hearing more about Joan. Katrina feels my work is something of an irritation too. So, but I think, Tim, over to you to lead us in a song now, please.
Make me a channel of your peace, and
I think it's supposed to be one bread, one
Well, it's not. That's a communion song, so I put it in communion.
That's okay. Well, that's good.
the joke.
Your wife's saying no.
Oh dear. Yep. One bread, one body, one Lord of all. If you are the rain we bless. Oh, we are many throughout the earth. We are one body who is Lord. Gentle or Jew, servant or free, woman no man, no more, one bed, one body, one Lord of all. We use the blessing, we are blessed, and we are many throughout the earth. We are one body who is Lord. Many the gifts, many the works, many the Lord of all. One bread, one body, one Lord of all. We are what blessings we are, yes, and we are many throughout the earth. We are one body who is Lord. Can you weary, scattered and drawn, gathered through all, we are one bread, one body, one Lord of all. Grant you the blessings we bless, and we are many throughout the earth. We are one body who is Lord.
The reading we've got this morning is from Romans 12, 9 to 13. And if it's not up on the screen, I'm not reading it. Here we go. Let love be genuine, hate what is evil, and hold fast to what is good. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honour. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit and serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient with affliction and persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Pursue hospitality to strangers.
I chose that reading because it seemed to tie in with the rule of Benedict. So I thought I selected just some quotes of Joan's that I've come across that I've found quite inspiring, and I thought we'd put them up and, just perhaps see if anybody has any response to them. So thanks. just find the one on my list. My limitations make space for the gifts of other people. Without the grace of our limitations, we would be isolated, dry, and insufferable creatures indeed. When I read that, it just reminded me that we all have limitations. We're all flawed, and we need to recognise that so that we can make room for other people in our lives and their gifts to complement what we have to offer. So I don't know if anybody's got any other response to that quote. Don't have to.
I think that reminds me too, the other side of it is that it's actually in diverse communities that we have the greatest chance of experiencing wholeness.
Yeah.
Even in a homogenous community, my limitations are just representing that reputation that people like me,
Yep.
Whereas in a diverse community, there is a chance that we will move towards wholeness.
Yeah.
Also, in our professional lives or our sort of working lives, we always try to pretend we're as good as possible.
Yes.
But in our domestic lives, we're all constantly reminded of our limitations. So we sort of flip between those two modes.
Yeah, true. Thanks, Michael. We'll have the second quote. There is no amount of darkness that can extinguish the inner light. The important thing is not to spend our lives trying to control the environment around us. The task is to control the environment within us. So that, I guess, just reminded me that change comes from within. I don't know if anybody's got any response to that one.
I guess without wanting to just talk about the other one. Oh, thank you, Brian. Thank you. Without wanting to beat anyone talks. Again, that, one of the things in a work context, I've been involved in some stuff lately which is all about, how if you focus on what you can control, you have a chance at achieving something, whereas if you focus on what you can't control, you've got no chance at achieving things. And that's sort of aligned with that, isn't it? I actually am in control of my journey within to a certain extent.
Yep.
Whereas my journey without is the context that I find myself in, and there's a whole range of things that I can't control in that space. So, but the journey within really enables me to engage appropriately and positively or in the best possible way with that, doesn't it?
Thanks, Danny.
One of the most helpful things somebody said to me a few years back was, you can't control your future, but you can control the kind of person you want to be when that future arrives. And so when I read that last bit, trying to look after ourselves and our inner world so that when our future arrives, we're in the right space for it.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Michael. We'll have the next one. So there's a few on this one. I love this first one. Find the thing that stirs your heart and make room for it. Hospitality is simply love on the loose. And fear is not the opposite of courage. Fear is the catalyst of courage. And can I just say thank you, Sarah, for Sarah's done all these slides and they're just wonderful. So she's put up there a number of the books by Joan, and the beautiful red background is the red of the Benedictines, and also is on Joan's website. So thank you so much, Sarah. Yeah. Carolyn?
The last one about fear is interesting, and I think it reminds me of that it's really a thought that has been expressed by many people, and in particular, I remember reading it in a book just recently called "The Boy, the Horse, the Mule, and the one I'm talking about, and the Fox." And it's a beautiful illustrated book that is for adults as much as children, and it was talking about fear. And one of the wise animals said that we're often paralysed by fear. We don't want to fail, but having courage is feeling fear and stepping forward into the storm anyway. And I think I really like that analogy of you don't have to wait until you're not scared. Be scared, but do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Thanks, Carolyn.
I was reading an article a couple of months ago about stand-up comedy, and inherent in the article, the whole view that stand-up comedy was one of the incredibly fearful, difficult things to do because it's just you and a microphone. There's no music, there's nothing around you that can help hide, if you like. And they were talking about, and interviewed several comedians, talking about the whole context of how fear is the acceptance of fear and the control of fear to give you the whole context of performance and the acceptance that it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think there's one more. Michael, thank you. No, there's two more. It is in community that we come to see God in the other. It is in community that we see our own emptiness filled up. It is in community that calls me beyond the pinched horizons of my own life, my own country, my own race, and gives me the gifts I do not have within me. And I guess for me, the Hartwell community is that for me. So.
I think that was one thing I learned in nursing, was that people are people, and people are good and bad, and people come together, and you get such a variety of gifts and talents from different people, and that's what makes a group, of any sort of group, or a community.
A community, yeah. Thanks, Rosemary. We'll have the last one. I think there's one more, Michael. No? That's it?
Just read out the last one then.
The last one that I had was darkness deserves gratitude. It is the alleluia point at which we learn to understand that all growth does not take place in the sunlight. And there it is. I was planting potatoes during the week and I thought of this quote and I thought, you plant potatoes, you dig a trench, you put them in, you cover them up, and then they grow in the dark. And there is something we probably don't naturally gravitate to darkness in our lives, but I love that the way she says it's the alleluia point, where we get that understanding that sometimes it's only in darkness that we can grow and find the sunlight. I don't know if anybody else has got any other comments on that one.
When I saw this on the screen earlier, just a couple of things were colliding in my, sorry, a couple of things were colliding in my mind when I saw this quote. Thank you for your assistance.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I'm at great risk of losing my train of thought here, but so darkness, relief from darkness is possibly considered one of the great achievements of the last 120 years of our civilization. So the kerosene lamp that preceded electricity, up until that point, there were real limitations on how much illumination you would have in your life. And so when the sun went down, it was night time, and that was shut down and don't do much because you don't have light. Now, flying in as I regularly do to Melbourne from overseas on the night flight, you know, you come in and you see the towns below as you get closer to landing, all illuminated at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. If you've ever flown across the United States, you see this amazing, you know, nighttime beacons of light everywhere, which is the context in which she lives. And it's almost like so it sort of links it a little bit to the, you know, how much electricity do we need sort of context of climate change debate. But we've had this period of 50 or 70 years in our lives where liberation from darkness, having illumination, city streets that you can walk around and see, is a very desirable thing. Increases productivity, but there is some place for backing off the level of illumination and for people to adjust to being more comfortable with less light.
Yeah,
and that's quite a profound challenge to think what would that look like. Now, it's, you know, it might be at certain people's certain times of life that might be an enticing thing. For other people that might be abhorrent, but certainly thought-provoking.
yeah. Thanks, Dave. Andrew? Oh, Rosemary? Go Rosemary.
There's echoes of rooming in there with the accepting the darkness and growing in the darkness too.
Yep.
You mentioned growing potatoes. Often I feel much more like a mushroom in the dark, being fed, trying to work out all the stuff, all the rubbish that I'm being fed, and trying to understand a way forward through it. And all of the comments that she's put up have been fantastic, but the one that moved me this morning, the one I felt, was the Bible reading that you chose. I just thought it was in trying to work through the rubbish that you're fed. Be good, aim for good, love others, care for others, and be your best self following God. I thought that was really moving.
Right. Thanks, Andrew. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, Jenny.
Yep.
I'll be leading us in communion. So again, we move softly into our weekly rhythm of sharing the sacraments together. This weekly ritual, practiced for centuries, provides a familiar passage for us to be intentionally together. In this time of reflection, our invitation is to be open to the unhurried work of love. As the divine, with a smile and a twinkle in their eyes, yet again grants us a personal audience. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Hope is what sits by the window and waits for one more dawn, despite the fact that there isn't any ounce of proof in tonight's black sky that it can possibly come. I'll say that again. Hope is what sits by the window and waits for one more dawn, despite the fact that there isn't any ounce of proof in tonight's black sky that it can possibly come. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is a new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me."
It's all happening. Some really interesting conversations. I've been in the back with Michael, some really interesting conversations happening online, which is nice. You're scraping the barrel today with me in the pastoral prayer. So I think it was initially Bob's away, and then Meryl's got bronchitis. So please think of her. This day, there are many that wake up burdened with the tasks of the day around the world, and us included. Perhaps also burdened with thoughts, with memories, plans for the future. Many people are burdened with lack of food. Others burdened with trying to make meaning of their lives. Jesus said, "In this life, you will have trouble." And he was right. Paul despaired of life himself sometimes. My prayer for us this morning is that we may take the time to stop and acknowledge the complexity and the often challenging dimensions of life for many people, including ourselves, while also acknowledging that life is full of generosity, hope, relationships, beautiful memories, and new opportunities. May we continue to be a community that acknowledges the difficulties of life, but also its inherent goodness. May we be people that own our own darkness, but also affirm our own light. May we be gentle with others, each other, but also ourselves. Amen.
So a little background on my discovery of Joan Chittister. When I was in ministry at Northern, for a number of years in the last, 5 or so years that I was there, in my ministry review meeting each year that I had with Phil McCredden, who was the team leader, he would always ask me, what's your goals for the year? And every year I would say as one of my goals, I'd like to do training to become a spiritual director or a spiritual companion. In my review meeting at the end of 2008, Phil said to me, "You say this every year, Julie. When are you going to do something about it?" So I did. I began to look at where I could do my training, and lots of people that I knew recommended Wellspring, which is based at Ashburton Baptist. And then in my search, I found Heart of Life and the Siloam program. And there was something that just felt right within me about going to a Catholic spirituality centre. So I enrolled and I was accepted late into the course. I started a couple of weeks after everybody else. And it was a 2-year part-time program. And it was an amazing course. And my eyes were open to all sorts of things, including a whole lot of writers that I'd never come across before. I just think that the Catholics, we're catching up, us Protestants, but the Catholics really have a deep understanding of the contemplative way of life. And so I learnt a lot about that and a lot of writers. In the August of my last year of doing the course, Tim had his stroke and I was unable to finish the rest of the year. Some of you might remember that in the days, weeks and months following Tim's stroke, I kept a blog, which initially was just a way of keeping the hundreds of people that Tim knew informed about his progress. But surprisingly for me, the blog very quickly became much more than that. I would write it first thing in the morning while I was having my breakfast at the kitchen bench, and it very quickly became my journal. It was an opportunity to share something of the journey that I was going through, as well as how Tim was doing. I wish I could remember who gave me Joan Chittister's book at that time, which was called Scarred by Struggle, Transformed by Hope. Here it is. And it would have been one of my Catholic friends. Because this book was incredibly transformative and had a deep impact on me in that first year following the life-changing event that was Tim's stroke. So when Brian asked me if I would speak about someone whose wisdom had inspired me, I immediately thought of Joan. I love the way she wrote this book and the wisdom that its pages unfolded for me. So I thought that I'd just share some of that wisdom and how it challenged and changed me and how it helped me to understand what was going on within me at that time. So the book is based around 2 stories. One is the Old Testament story of Jacob's wrestling match with the angel, and the other is Joan's own story of an internal battle with a life-changing disappointment that she had. The first few chapters are about struggle and what struggle means for us. And then she looks at the many and varied struggles that we have in life, and then she follows it with a gift. So the chapter headings are things like the struggle of change, and then the next chapter is the gift of conversion, the struggle of isolation, the gift of independence, the struggle of darkness, the gift of faith, the struggle with fear, the gift of courage, and so on. And she finishes with the process of struggle, the process of hope, and the gift of hope. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share some of the quotes from the book and then a little bit about how that impacted me. So the first quote is, "The truth is that courage is what carries simple people through an average day. It is not action, it is an attitude. It is the spiritual strength that gives direction in the midst of confusion. It is no more uncommon than fear. It is, in fact, the child of fear. Fear is not the opposite of courage. Fear is the catalyst of courage." For someone who has struggled with fear and anxiety all my life, those words inspired me with the hope that even in that time when anxiety and fear, grief and fear, and that constant feeling of fear that I was experiencing, even despite all of that, I could find the courage to move forward and do what needed to be done. She then talks about trust. It is trust in the limits of the self that make us open, and it is trust in the gifts of others that make us secure. We come to realise that we don't have to do everything, that we can't do everything, that what I can't do is someone else's gift and responsibility. It is our limitations and the trust, the dependence on others that springs from them that save us from the tiny little deaths that struggles brings. So for someone who's always been a very private and independent person, this time in my life made me realise that I needed my friends around me. I couldn't do everything on my own. I had to become more vulnerable and allow others to help. And there are many of you here today who were those people who were there for me at that time, and I don't know what I would have done without you. For me, the importance of community, as I said before, and this Hartwell community in particular, is just so essential for my inner well-being. She says, "Struggle changes us. It grows us up. It takes the dew off the rose and the gilt off the silver. It turns the fantasies of life into reality. But struggle does more than that. It also gives life depth and vision, insight and understanding, compassion and character. It not only transforms us, it makes us transforming as well. Then we become equal to the pressures of the world around us. Once we have truly struggled with something that stretches the elastic of the spirit, we are worthy to walk with others in struggle too. Then we're ready to listen. Then we're able to lead. When we know the meaning of what it is to struggle with something in life, we become totally human." I've definitely had plenty of struggles in my life, as we all have. But I think the transforming nature of Tim's stroke to our whole way of life was the biggest challenge that I've had to negotiate. The challenge to find a new way of being together as a family and with our friends has given my life depth and vision, insight and understanding, compassion and character in all sorts of ways. I'm not saying that I've become an amazing, wise person, but I have been changed and I have grown up because of my life experiences. And I've learned that everyone has struggles, and to be able to offer a listening ear because I've struggled myself is something that I think I can offer to others. Joan says, "Struggle forces us to confront our illusions both about the world and ourselves. It requires us not simply to seek hope, but to become hope ourselves. It urges us to move beyond the cages that entrap us in the past in order to live with new imagination. Whatever we loved and lost in the past is the best proof we have that life can be good in the future if we will only make it so within ourselves. Struggle is, in other words, the gift of new life in disguise. There is beauty in the dark valleys of life. It is called hope. I like to think, and I actually believe, that Tim and I have made a wonderful new life together since his stroke. It's not that we don't still have moments of sadness and grief. Well, I do, I'm not sure. But we've found that there is beauty and hope, even and maybe because of the dark valleys of life. And finally, this last quote's quite a long one, but it's probably my favourite quote in the book, I think, and it's about hope. Hope is not a denial of reality, but it is also not some kind of spiritual elixir. It is not a placebo infused out of nowhere. Hope is a series of small actions that transform darkness into light. It is putting one foot in front of the other when we can find no reason to do so at all. A Native American tale tells of the elder who was talking to a disciple about tragedy. The elder said, "I feel as if I have two wolves fighting in my heart. One wolf is the vengeful, angry, violent one. The other wolf is the loving, compassionate one." The disciple asked, "But which wolf will win the fight in your heart?" And the Holy One answered, "It depends on which one I feed." The spiritual task of life is to feed the hope that comes out of despair. Hope is not something to be found outside of us. It lies in the spiritual life we cultivate within. The whole purpose of wrestling with God is to be transformed into the new self we are meant to become, to step out of the confines of our false securities and allow our creative God to go on creating in us. The only difference between hope and despair is that despair shapes an attitude of mind. Hope creates a quality of soul. For me, putting one foot in front of the other each day, in those first few days, weeks and years following Tim's stroke, gradually transformed the darkness into light and helped me understand what real hope means. I have found Joan Chittister's writings to be accessible, profound and full of wisdom, and I'd highly recommend her to anyone who would like to be challenged, encouraged and inspired in your journey of life. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you so much for that, Jules. Thank you for introducing us to Joan, who prior to this I'd never heard of before, so really good to see some of her insights, but also thank you so much for sharing yourself with us, in that way, and just wonderful to be here to see that. We're now going to bring this morning's service to a close, and in a minute Tim's going to get up and lead us in singing. He's going to lead us in the Irish blessing, but before we do that, are there any announcements that I know? Or so next Sunday it's brunch. Do we have to bring anything, Rosemary?
No, just bring your appetites.
Clean, happy and a kind, clean, hanky and a kind smile, is that right? There you go. And then the following week is dish, there you go. The following week is dish at our house. So you'll all be welcome to come along there. Yeah, I wouldn't be promising that. That's I know we've been talking about hope this morning, but it's feeling like vain hope to me. Apart from that, Tim, come up here and lead us in our singing. Oh, Dave, you're going to come up. I'm going to step aside from the microphone because that's a wise thing for me to do.
May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of their hand. May God hold you in the palm of their hand.
Amen. Yeah, really right. Is it? It's not something I probably should type up. I'm having a bit of a think. Yeah.
Where the Vegemite things came from, rock like, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'll picture it.
Okay, so you can just come in and give a
So people can
Pin people down.